Welcome one and all present over here. Thank you all for finding time and visiting today's webinar. My name is Khizer Ahmed and I am the director of Khizer Technologies Private Limited. Our company is into web designing and development, mobile application development, corporate training. We conduct online classes for programming languages like C, C++, C Sharp, Java and other languages. We help schools and colleges in their admissions and eco-friendly, reusable, recyclable books and stationery items from Vivan company with whom we have tagged up with in line with Swachh Bharat Abhiyan to save trees, water and reduce waste, which can be used by all educational institutions. Our topic for today is to overcome challenges during COVID-19, and we have two eminent speakers, that is Dr. Latha Murthy and Mr. James Martin. Before we start, let me explain how you can talk to us during the webinar. If you have any questions during this presentation, just write them to chat. We will answer them at the end of the session. Also drop your mobile number, email ID and name so that we will be sending you participation certificates of this webinar. Now, our eminent speakers. We have Dr. Latha Murthy, who is an educationist with 3 decades of expertise serving MASP Microsoft as a program director and international speaker for STEAM. Apart from this, she is a social worker associated with NGOs and believes to be a change to bring in the society for a better progressive India. More importantly, she is an advisor and mentor to Khizer Technologies Private Limited. We welcome you, ma'am. We
Thank
also
you.
have Mr. James Martin, who is a Canadian educational professional, father to a 5-year-old son with a sincere passion for global education system. He has his school leadership and management certification from Harvard Business School online. He is the president and CEO of Global Talk Education GTE, a Canadian-based international education advisory firm that world's global leaders turn to for forward-thinking ideas in the areas of school startups and acquisitions, academic development, audit preparation, administration analysis, teacher training, workshops, leadership seminars, student success initiatives. He also provides educators with direct insight to Canadian curriculum, higher education processes, and affiliations. He also specializes in seminars and workshops on studying in Canada, business workplace culture in Canada, teacher training, and student success strategies. He graduated from an esteemed Canadian university, St. Mary's University, and holds certification from the Harvard Business School online in school leadership and management. He looks forward to working with your schools in bridging strong education systems and collaborations between Indian and Canadian institutions. Welcome, Mr. James Martin.
Thank you.
Now let me hand over to Dr. Latha Murthy. Ma'am, please, ma'am.
Thank you so much. It was a very good introduction.
It was my pleasure.
And I welcome Mr. James Martin once again, for this lovely session. And he has agreed to give his time for us today. I welcome you again, Mr. James Martin.
Thank you. My
for
pleasure.
being with us. We are privileged to have you today. Well, dear friends, you all know and are going through a very difficult phase in life. And the topic for today is how we are going to overcome challenges during COVID-19. Now, everybody is living with the danger of feeling, okay? Like with a question in our hearts: why, when, and how? And the fear of not to get an attack with the coronavirus. Well, the best way is to keep ourselves healthy, safe, and happy by taking utmost precautions and maintaining the distances, whatever or whichever is required. Life is a learning on its own. Living is not expensive, but the lifestyle is expensive. The way we live makes it expensive. Let us take, for example, a home. What all do we have at home? All comforts and facilities, from a lower middle class family to a very high income family, isn't it? But everyone eats food for their living, Is it not? In most of the foreign countries, as we have James here too, I believe that all families in a house do their house chores on their own. Like in India, we don't have the maids coming in, we don't have regularly every day, we don't have cooks coming in every day. And there are so many things. Even if you want to do a small carpentry work, those things are already given to you, information, and everything is given to you as a guide so that you can do every work on your own. I think many might have noticed this if you have been abroad, if you have noticed, or you would have seen in some movies, or your friends would have told you, or something like that. Now, what has happened during these years going through, one has become so lazy and accustomed to a living, a lifestyle of comforts and letharginess too. We want someone else to come and do our housework, to do cooking, to do washing, to do cleaning, etc. and etc. There are so many works to be done. So why don't we all think of becoming independent and do our work on our own? During this lockdown period, what have you felt? What is that feeling that has come with you? Now, life is so precious, isn't it? So from yogic times, it has been said that one needs to do yoga, exercise, eat healthy, and work wise. Everyone needs to definitely work on their own thought process and cooperate with husbands and wives at home, sisters, brothers, friends, parents, grandparents, relatives, and all members of the society. There has to be a societal change to ensure a better and future India progressively, and better world as well. Now you take the incidences of a school-going child or a children. Parents always used to complain and emphasize, saying that my child is watching television, my child is watching videos, my child is watching the computers, and there are so many things. My child is using the smartphones which I have at home, and they are getting addicted to all this. There were a lot of complaints from parents, school-going children. And but now what has happened? There has been a change, isn't it? So we are all learning digitally. And has learning stopped? No, it has not. It doesn't mean that children at home are not learning. Sitting at home also the children are learning. And not only children learning, even as adults, we are learning so many things. We are coming up with new things, which we are, coming through every day, sitting at home. Learning not only happens in schools. Learning can take place sitting at home and working at home also, as I said. Now, the children can become more creative by learning at home. But I do believe schools are there for the children to ensure that there is a societal, social learning happening. But don't you all feel that everyone have to update themselves to the latest technology in the world in learning and working from home? People who belong to the generation have got a history to tell their loved ones in future. I mean, the people who are for this generation, they definitely have a history, because during this time, during this pandemic, what all has happened that can be told to their loved ones in future. Many have become entrepreneurs during this pandemic. So many companies, MNCs, the businesses have brought innovation in design and managing cash flows to getting relevant mentors on boards and re-strategizing their products, sales, skills, etc., etc. Now, working people, salaries are not paid, or salaries are not paid fully. They pay half salary, or the salaries are being paid late. And for some people, salaries are paid fully. They have their EMIs to take care, their family, the home affairs, the home expenses, and so many things. Along with that, they also have to pay, if they have children, they have to pay the tuition fees or the school fees for their college going students or school going children. What is the mindset of the people today? Anybody can answer? Why should I pay the school fees when there's no school? Isn't it? Do you agree with me? Anyone says yes, no?
Yeah, we agree.
You agree? Very good. Now, the salaried people or the business people sitting at home, they have a mindset saying that I'm not going to pay the school fees or the college fees of my child. But aren't we paying the housemaids or the gardener or the laborer, whomever we have appointed? They have not come for the last 2 months because they were not allowed to come. We had social distancing happening. Haven't we paid them? We have paid them, isn't it? We are paying our electricity bills. We are paying our mobile bills. We are paying our internet bills. We are paying all that. But why not school fees? So parents have the mindset, or people have the mindset saying that why should we pay the school tuition fees or the school fees or whatever of the children? Let me tell you, 100% teachers are really working hard because they were not to the latest technology. They were not accustomed to that at all. And now the teachers have made themselves proficient to ensure that the teaching and the learning doesn't stop. The schools, institutions, the management have taken great initiatives to ensure that online teaching should be available to all students in the society, and also to make sure that all the schools across the world have taken this digital learning platform. Teaching has spread beyond four walls of the classroom now, which is really amazing. Only difference in the students is that they are not meeting their peers in school and social schooling is not taking place. However, they are in touch over the phones and speaking on Zoom, speaking on different medias. Parents have to definitely think positive and have to be cooperative in fees payment, as the salaries of the teachers have to be paid by paying the fees. The school managements collect the fees and then they pay the teachers. If that is not happening, it is so difficult for the teachers to survive. There is a lot to discuss on the same issue, but I hope as a human being, everyone, each one of us can definitely understand this. Here, challenges faced by everyone in this society is to overcome whatever one needs to become e-savvy. That means technological savvy. And there's evolving market situations, which is very bad at present and which has to be booming up now. There are economical challenges, logistical challenges, and many more. Only thing what I would advise to overcome all this at this point of time is to focus on a new habit like writing, learning music, cooking, and then being creative, do your artwork, paint work, and there are so many other things, gardening, etc. So this will help in preventing the mind from going astray. We need to work towards it every day. We have to put in efforts within ourselves and we have to work, definitely work for achieving it. Then we also should not neglect the importance of physical activity during this period. And never underestimate the importance of setting goals. and achieving these small milestones. Very important is, although a pandemic like this will lead to major disruption in every aspect of life, it does not necessarily mean that everything in this world has come to a standstill. With personalized decision making and implementing technological solutions to overcome conventional challenges, and all mankind during these times are continued to be cared for. I wish and I want everybody to care for each other, which is a must. Stay safe, take care. Now I hand over to Mr. James Martin. He has joined us from Canada, and request him to give his insight and suggestions on how we would overcome this pandemic. Thank you so much.
Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you so much for that. You know, you highlighted on so many important elements. Again, we all face this unprecedented time with the pandemic, and we were struggling to adjust to that new change. And so, we as individuals, we as our individual families, but also within the education school system, and I think that, you know, what we had to do was really go back to basics and really understand the process of connecting the head and the heart. And that's something that was discussed in a few of the webinars that I've done over the series of the last several weeks, because I've been presenting with school educators, leaders, teachers, and people that are just all in certain elements of this process right now. And I think, you know, you brought up a very good point that education has not stopped. If anything, we have gone above and beyond what has been done. And I think now, as individuals, we have to be able to take this time and opportunity to look at the things that really were working for us and things that weren't. So, things that were not necessarily having a consistency or a natural flow in our lives. Now is the time to make those changes. You know, we have that ability to be optimistic, to be positive. And I think having that mindset that we will persevere, we will come out and above, you know, this pandemic, that's where we're going to see that strength in people. We're going to see the relationships that are built, you know, and I think at forming together, I haven't seen better consistency of forming webinars and connecting people globally before. You know, now is the time that we are all looking to people to have the suggestions, to really come together as a community to get through this together. And I think, you know, as I said, connecting the head and the heart is crucial in this time to understand where we have to go post COVID-19. So I've been working with several schools. I've been working, you know, on different webinars and structures, and what I actually found was that some of the initiatives are really blended ways and practices that I use at home, or people can use at home as well. So, you know, my background, I was an English teacher. I taught kindergartners ABCs, I taught English to aviation for adults, and everything in between. I was not prepared to homeschool my 5-year-old son. So I had to learn and adapt to that new customized way of learning and really connecting with my own son. And that was such a pivotal moment for me as an educator, as a leader, as a motivational speaker, to really understand the process that's involved in, you know, connecting with him on that educational level, but also just to make sure that, you know, he's staying positive. And I think that's what we have to understand, is surrounding ourselves with people who are supportive and who want to persevere during this process. So I just would like to share a very quick PowerPoint as well. Just if I could have the sharing capability, please. Because as I said, one thing I
Please
found,
go ahead, James.
okay, thank you. Speaking with speaking with a lot of school educators and leaders, we find that there is that blended way of practice. And sorry, it's still disabled. If I could just get the screen share again.
Khizer,
All right. Okay, there we go. Okay. So what I've done is I've actually created a PowerPoint in the way of, allowing us to look at reshaping the post-pandemic world. And, what we have to do is really look at the strategies in how this is going to work. And what we've focused on are the 4 C's. We have as an individual, as school leaders, we have to focus on the 4 C's: creativity, collaboration, critical thinking, and communication. These are troubling times for everyone. So we have to understand and listen to people's stories. We have to be creative in the ways that we are practicing as a family, as educators, as school leaders, as teachers, as parents. And so we have to exhaust all of those energies into that creativity aspect. The collaboration is, again, something that is a useful tool of observations. What are you doing in your household to make sure that you are still maintaining operations, that you are still being happy and successful within the schools or within a household? Critical thinking, these are troubling times financially. We have people in all different aspects of financial resources at the moment. And so we have to be critical thinkers in the post-pandemic era of how we're going to maintain that consistency. Communication, again, this is a beautiful form of
James,
communication, the
sorry
way
to
that
interrupt in between. We are not able
Mhm.
to view your presentation, James. It's just a black screen which is visible over here.
Oh,
Yes.
okay. I have the screen here.
Can you kindly stop sharing and reshare it again if that helps?
Yeah, I will try it again. Can you see my desktop now?
No,
no,
we
not
can't.
we can't.
We can
Okay.
just see your cursor. That's it. Not the
Yeah, we
screen.
are only able to see the cursors.
Okay. That's very strange. Anyway, what I'll do is I guess just, again, this is the wonderful world of technology and webinars and what we're having to deal with and think quickly on our feet. So I will stop the sharing feature and just speak based on the presentation. I can send the presentation after for your review.
Sure, sure.
Not a problem. And so, going back again to the 4 C's, I think communication is a crucial aspect. This is where we're communicating with platforms on webinars, Zoom calls, and now more than ever, the communicative approach, I think, as family members, as educators, we have to make sure that we are consistent and optimal in that communication strategy. There are a lot of techniques and tips on staying strong. We have to build our core resilience, and we have to enable behaviors. And I think strengthening relationships, taking control of our lives, it's so important to reset and recharge, because that can boost your mood, your concentration, and really just your ability to handle the pressures of COVID-19. So we have to make sure that we take that time to really reset and recharge as individuals, but also as professionals. And those are things that will trickle into people around us. We have to optimize our mindset. Adopting that optimistic mindset is really a way to interpret the life's challenges that have been given to people all over the world right now. and you have to nurture yourself. You know, I have been doing webinars from 5:30 in the morning onwards, and these are choices, but at the same time we have to make the healthy choices for ourselves to make sure that we are contributing to our own personal success in this process, because quite easily we can become distracted with the challenges. So we have to stay strong and make sure that our health and our safety and well-being is first and foremost the most important part. This is now the time to really grow and develop. We have to look at stretching ourselves in that new way of this unknown situation. And, you know, I am on webinars and we are all learners. Every day we are learning something new. And I think that's how we're going to grow and develop and persevere post COVID-19. And I think we will come out better people than before if we take the time now to grow and develop our skill set. One thing I work on with schools a lot is the SWOT analysis, the strengths, the weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And, you know, ultimately a SWOT analysis for families, for individuals, is something that I do on a daily basis to practice what my key strengths are, what my weaknesses are, to look at, you know, what can be improved. Look at the opportunities that are available to us at the moment, at present. And those are the opportunities that we have to make sure that we hone in on and that we start to develop. Looking at our threats, we have internal, external factors. And, you know, that's one thing that I think that the re-entry plan, you know, there's a lot of talk and there's a lot of webinars now of re-entry plans for schools to build the confidence of educators, of parents and students. But we also have to look at a re-entry plan for ourselves. The re-entry plan of post-COVID-19 in our emotional, our social emotional learning capabilities, and also the practical professional skill set that we're going to take with us in the coming weeks and months. And I think it, you know, if we look at this as a whole, we will definitely be able to maximize what our short-term, our long-term plans are as individuals, but also as professionals. And I think once we start to put these plans into practice, the recovery mission will be a success. And so that you know, ultimately is my talk. I really feel that putting these practices into place as an individual, as a household and family, we will come out of this crisis much better than before. Thank you.
Thank you. Wonderfully said. You have touched all the you know, pieces together, and you have made it, you know, the collage has been, you know, set well.
Exactly.
Thank you. Thank you. You know, it's such a learning curve, you know, for even parents. You know, in the past we were saying, you know, that's too much screen time, and now we have our children learning online, and so there's such a different element of adjusting to the new norm. And I think if we have that growth mindset, that we are being challenged, that things are not going back to the way that they were back in February, that's where we're going to be able to maintain that optimism and also create that strategic plan that will make us successful in the coming months.
Very true. And this change has happened very sudden. It has taken place suddenly.
Absolutely. And, you know, I've been seeing around the world every day globally. I'm on webinars and speaking to people worldwide. And, you know, we are all impacted in so many different ways. But it's very interesting to see how the reactions are globally as well. I think, you know, reacting as individuals, but also, you know, within the education systems, the reaction time and efforts are being seen around the world.
Very true.
Mm-hmm.
Excellent. Excellent. Thank you so much for your, you know, what do you say? The
Oh,
insight.
it's my pleasure. My pleasure.
And audience, you have participants.
Any questions from the participant side?
Questions, or you want to discuss something, you can speak for
Yes,
a minute.
Madhu. Madhu wants to talk. Yes, Madhu.
Okay, great. Hi, James. Nice to
Hi.
have you. Amazing talk, first and foremost. Thank you for that insight. Uh, my question now, you are a parent of a 5-year-old,
Yes.
and the biggest question is everybody across the world, or at least here, are facing is everything is happening on a digital platform. Yeah, I've been on webinars day in and day out, and children are learning through the digital platform themselves in various parts of the world because they don't have a choice now.
Right.
But as a parent, how are you differentiating, or how are you setting the expectation right as the amount of time spent by a child on the internet or on the system compared to engaging them otherwise?
Yeah, no, that's a fantastic question, and sometimes that can be a bit of a challenge. And but I think what I did with my son Spencer was that I really initiated that practice where it was allocated that it was school time. I'm an educator. I come from a family of educators. My dad was a high school principal for 47 years. My mother was an elementary school teacher. Education is instilled. And even if it hadn't been instilled in me, I still would have designated that school learning time for homeschooling. That's important. It's the environment that you surround the child with at home and make it as interactive, but as close to the learning environment in his classroom as possible, because then that helps differentiate that, okay, this is learning time, you are doing the lessons, and you're not watching your favorite cartoon. So there are optimal ways to create that learning environment from a homeschooling perspective.
All right, perfect. Thank you so much.
No problem.
James, you have a few
Hi,
messages in the
James.
chat.
Hi, how are you?
Hi, James. I have a question for you. See, we are
Sure.
basically talking from the point of view of corporates, employees, or the students and the faculties, which is fantastic. We have Zoom, and we can get connected. But what about the people who are old age? Because we are more focused on them. They have to stay at home, stay indoor, 60 plus, and where they don't have much of opportunity of learning, or even interaction is being limited to them. So how do you address people of that age, 60, 70 plus?
You know
Because
what?
they are having a lot of stress,
Absolutely.
I feel. And
Mhm.
how can they come out of it?
I think that there is a certain element to technology where it comes back to, train the trainer. And so it's nurturing that time and element of a learning process. But also, I work with schools in very rural areas of Brazil and other countries, and they don't have the Wi-Fi access. They don't have the materials and things like that. And so there's that element that we have to make sure that we are reassuring them in the process. And so we are including them as much as possible by utilizing what's available. And so, my parents, both my mother and father, are 78 years old.
Okay.
And they themselves are, quite technologically challenged, let's say. And it's
Exactly.
a process where we have to make sure we are including them in the learning process. We're engaging them, but also giving them the confidence that it's okay, that because they feel concerned that they aren't as quick or fast. But I, as a parent, my 5-year-old knows more than I do on technology. With it's scary at this moment in terms of how the generational gaps are. And I think as we just be compassionate, we be understanding that there are going to be these elements of gaps. I think will reassure the older generation that they may only understand certain aspects of the element.
Thank you, James. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions?
We also have Revati madam. We have Krupa
Yes, I
madam.
would like to
They are
talk.
all into scouts and
Mm.
guides. They are teachers and they have been coordinators of schools and all that. Do you have anything to express, Krupa madam?
See, I am Revati. Revati want to talk.
Yes, please.
I like to talk.
Sure.
I feel this Zoom teaching, it's come to all the schools. Online program is very much important nowadays. It is taken up too much. Some teachers are taken up and some teachers are finding it difficult. How for this online teaching can be helpful. I hope I'm very happy to take part in this. This will help for in all the fields and teachers also learn online teaching. I am Ms. Revati. I am Ms. Revati from St. Joseph's Convent. I would like to know how to go about online teaching in the schools.
So, correct me if I'm wrong. The question is in terms of the delivery of online programs. Is that correct? The audio was not quite clear on my end. Could you just repeat your question? Oh, I think you have to unmute yourself.
You'll have to
Zoom
just
is come now.
repeat your question.
Yeah, online teaching in every school wanted to adopt for this time COVID-19. So how to go about it? Do we have to approach any technical people or wait for it?
Okay. Yes. Yeah. I now I understand. So the idea is, a lot of schools, because they had so quickly to transfer to online learning, they didn't have that time to get the training, the processes that were in place.
Yes.
And what a lot of schools are doing right now is they are starting to understand that some of the online learning will continue post COVID-19. So they want to incorporate this blended learning environment within their schools, because I know, there are specific schools that I'm working with directly now that are seeing that the programs that they wanted to offer in schools, they just didn't have the time. They didn't have the materials or preparation for it, but now online they can. And so we're going to see more and more that schools are turning to blended learning and virtual e-learning platforms. And what has to happen is that structure and organization from a standard operating procedure. So we have to look at the SOPs of delivering blended learning environments. And then what we have to do is we have to figure out what the platform the schools would use, but then start to look at developing the teacher training. Because what's happening is all across the world right now, I am seeing teachers burnt out because they were so fast in having to teach online, and it's a completely different era for them. So they want to have that process and the teacher training. And so I think once you establish the standard operating procedures in terms of the platforms that you would use as a school, and then start to develop the teacher training, that's when you will see the results for online learning.
I see.
Brilliant.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Awesome. Thank you so much for the answers. Yeah.
Very good.
Quickly, can I have
Thank you.
Yes, so is there
Madhu,
any
we can't hear you.
have a question, please?
Yes.
Madhu,
yeah, can you hear me?
yeah.
Yeah, go ahead, Madhu.
Okay, great. James, one more quick one.
Sure.
Because currently in the current technology outburst that we are having for connectivity, where do we draw the line? I know collaboration is the right way, and then there is integration that needs to happen with on-ground, online, and there's a lot of noise and chaos around us. which is on the reality level in terms of the virus that brings it from the outside, but also the fact of connectivity. Because we have all been connected, we have all been great, but we had something else to do apart from being online. But now most of the things are happening online. And there's so much noise around that. And how to understand how much is required and how much should be kept away out of this initial chaos that is there.
Yeah, you know what? In any element, in any example or sample of things that we are going through right now, there is going to absolutely categorically be that external chaos. And so one thing that I focus on with Global Talk Education from the advisory perspective is creating that prioritization matrix. We have to absolutely be strategic in prioritizing and deciphering what is chaos or what is imperative and what's important. And so I think as we start to really prioritize, we start to decipher and we start to kind of whittle down what is actually important. And so looking at the ultimate goal and keeping that at the forefront is the most important aspect in that process.
And how do we decide what is right for the long term, and what is the strategies that we keep for survival as a individual as well as an organization in the current phase?
Sure. So, you know, I think in terms of the survival part, there really has to be the emphasis on the financial aspect. Absolutely. And, you know, we're seeing that challenge worldwide at the moment. And so, you know, we have to look at the so-called phrase bread and butter of the process, and we have to understand what is going to be our survival feature and factor, because my survival guide will be quite different than yours. And so what we have to do is understand, and again, that goes back to our own self-reflection on what as a person we have to do to create that survival practice.
Thank you, James.
Anybody else to share or to express their thoughts?
I,
Something
Tracy,
different?
would like to say thanks.
Okay.
James, I have a question.
Sure, sure.
I have a question for you. You were talking about the burnout, and that is what currently the teaching professional are facing right now. And there's also a literature, or there's also a news on it today, which came out very clearly that they don't want to take any more e-learning classes. It's because of the bullying from the parents. So how do you handle this type of situations, James?
Yeah, and so I think from a community perspective, that's where we have to have that open communication and dialogue, but we have to understand each other in this process, you know, and that's something that even here in Canada we are seeing, because even from the online perspective, it's a growth mindset. We have to change that growth mindset of online learning, because to many, they feel that that's not teaching, that's not working, that's, you know, there are so many different negative connotations when it comes to different aspects that we're experiencing right now. And I think for teachers, you know, it's that motivational factor of going back to you know, Simon Sinek. He's sort of a business mentor. I follow him quite frequently. In start with why. Simon Sinek, and
Okay.
I'll put it in the chat. But he has a concept called start with why. So as teachers, we have to look back. Why do we do what we do? You know, and really kind of go and be that motivating factor for ourselves, because again, there is that external noise and chaos. And we have to make sure that we understand that we are collectively all in this together on a global scale right now. And so for teacher burnout, you know, that is something that is you know, happening right now. So we have to make sure that we are all working towards that goal. in the school system. It's educating the parents.
Very
You know, one of the
true.
biggest things for me is that I work with schools on many different levels for operational academic development. But a very crucial part of that is educating parents so that they understand, and the communication strategies that are given to them, that there's full transparency so that they understand. Because when the communication is not there, that's where parents are left to their own vices to think, okay, well, teachers are not teaching or they're not putting the efforts in. So we have to make sure that we're understanding of each other in the school system community.
Exactly. That was the same thing which came out in the article today.
Yeah.
Yes.
Said. Thank you, James. Thank you.
No
And
problem.
actually, the mindset of the society, it has to change. I don't know when that is going to happen, because
You,
that if that
it's
doesn't change, nothing. We can't bring in any changes at all.
it's going to be a very I think it's going to be a very long
I think
time.
now
A
this
growth
is the right
mindset is
time.
not an easy concept to change. But the
Mm.
thing is, we can't get overwhelmed with waiting for that change. So as an
Mm.
individual, we have to start shifting that mindset. And then we will start to see that our support system and the people that we are associated with will in turn have that growth mindset as well. So that's the factor, and that's the mindset that I have. I've never been one to sit back and wait for something to happen. I've always been proactive in, achieving those goals. And I think that's where we have that growth mindset.
Sure.
And also, as you rightly pointed out, James, like we have to educate our parents. That's more important. Like, they should understand what is the virtual learning is all about and how it is good, how it is different from the classroom learning. So that basic concept should be, developed in them, and, we'll have to educate them on that for them to accept what is happening and how to get motivated and bring up the kids as well.
Absolutely. I've worked with different schools, and the one factor that has been quite a challenge is maintaining and meeting parent expectations.
Very
And
true.
so
Absolutely.
what we have to do is we have to make sure that those communication forms are in place so that parents are, again, in full transparency of the operating procedures and have that understanding. And if they have questions or concerns, that they feel that they are being heard.
Mm. Very true.
James, there is one more question, James, which has come through chat.
Sure.
Looking at the current situation of COVID-19, it is obvious that the most of lecturers of next academic year will be online. So what do you think about this, and how will it affect the students and their education process, as offline teaching leads to proper training than online?
Well, and again, I think we are shifting towards that, where there's going to be that e-learning platform in the future. And I think what we have to do is we have to make sure that the processes are in place. It is going to be a challenge, but it's one that I think that we're all able to adapt and adopt the different practices. Because what's going to happen is that even with the e-learning, the outcomes of e-learning practices will then be infiltrated into careers and employability and so many other different factors, so that we have to be able to keep up with the trend so that we are able to collectively come together on that professional level within careers. We're going to see changes in business opportunities, within employability for different types of careers. There are careers out there that may not even be developed or understood right now. And so that's the exciting part of this period, in that, as teachers, we have to understand that we are a part of this ever growing change, that in, 10 to 15 to 20 years, it'll be a different culture altogether because of this platform.
Right. True. And we believe that, see, we have been using multiple intelligence methodology in so many, ways of teaching practices. But we do believe that, when you see and learn, at that point of time, you do better. isn't
Absolutely.
it?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. You know, seeing is believing. That's the saying. Seeing is believing. So yes, there will be hiccups, there will be some complications and challenges, but it's the positive, optimistic mindset and that we have to create that environment to really see that change. And once we start to see the results of those practices within our schools, within our families, I think that's where we are going to be able to take a breath, you know, because right now everyone is holding their breath because of the pandemic. So we have to make sure that we're just moving forward with the process.
Very true.
Hmm.
Anybody else?
Anybody else?
James, I
Any
have
other
another
question?
question. If it's okay.
Yeah, I have a question.
Okay.
Hello, James.
Hi, how are you?
Yeah, I'm good. Looking at the current, I don't know if this question is valid or not to ask here, but looking at the current situation of pandemic, what do you think will be the situation in Canada in coming 2-3 years for international master students there and opportunities, difference in opportunities?
Absolutely. You know, Canada, I have to say, they have really put the practices in place for higher education, for the continuation. There's a lot of different support that's coming through the Canadian government standards. I'm quite happy that to see the practices that are being put in operationally for the accommodation of international students. You know, they're again, it's hard to say at this point in time because of the travel bans, because of, you know, so many different factors. But I think from the perspective of the educational institutions, we will be very proactive as a country to make sure that we maintain those international student populations, because that's what we value, that's what we love, and that's what our focus and efforts have been in the past, and they will continue definitely in the future.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Khizer, do you have one more minute for me?
Yes, absolutely.
Or is it okay?
Absolutely.
Jim, I
Okay.
have a question. Hello.
Yes, ma'am. Please go ahead.
Hello.
Hi.
Hello. This online program is going to continue. How far the children will be able to catch, and what about the people who have rich enough? They may have all these facilities. The people who are from an middle class and low class, how they will afford to go on this online program? Or do you feel, James? I would like to know.
You know, and that's something that I've been having a lot of discussions with school leaders and
Isn't it?
teachers and
Yeah.
educators,
Since I
because
am a teacher, I am very particular about all this, very
absolutely,
particular. Our online program, school is school only. Classroom teaching is effective on online. How far they will pay the attention, and good children and good intelligent students and well enough, they may go for on this line, online
absolutely.
program teaching. And the people who are low class and low poverty, I feel very sad for those children who is not afford to buy all these facilities and to sit on online. What about them?
So, you know,
How
and
you
that's the
go
thing.
about on them?
Yes, and with schools, I think what they are doing now is they are looking at customization. There's been a very big
Yes,
shift
they
in
have to.
individualization when it comes to the student learning
Yes.
practices. And so, for example, here in Canada, we have the IPP programs, you know, the individual plan
Mm,
program. And I think that
yes.
we have to understand that those requirements are going to change quite drastically with the shift from in class to online, but also the element of benchmarks and criteria and how much, you know, the students are retaining at home from homeschooling and things. So the benchmarks and the assessment formation, we have to understand will have to change as well in due course because of the curriculum outcomes. And I think that's, as an educator, as school leaders, this is where the you know, standard operating procedures for the benchmarks and the expectations have to be changed and modified as well, because we are going to find that there are discrepancies within the children's learning abilities, and that has to be implemented in the assessment process as well. And so what schools have to do is they have to take the general requirements of the Ministry of Education, CBSE, but then what they have to do is they have to tailor it and customize it according to the internal practices within the school as well. And so this is something that I work and counsel on for school leaders as well, because it is a process to take that requirement from the ministries, but then adjust it to the individual student within a school.
Well said, James. It was wonderful. Yes,
Thank you.
well said.
This one.
And
I would like
We
to ask
talk-
something.
Yes.
sure.
Okay, this is Simran.
Yes, good evening, everybody. I would like to ask that the area where I resided, it's semi-rural area. And being PGT English and a coordinator of a school, the problem here is people are so reluctant. The parents, even if we try convincing them that e-education is the need of the hour, we still try convincing them. But the issue that we get here is that people come down and say कि ma'am हम आटा खरीदें या data खरीदें, like whether they should go for staple food, the flour, to cook meals for them, or they should get the recharges done for their data packs. So convincing such kind of parents is extremely difficult for us.
Mm-hmm.
And eventually it's the children who get affected because they are not able to get access to the studies that are being done.
Mm-hmm. You know, and again, that is an issue that I think really comes from the top down. What you have to do is be understanding that the practices that you are offering and putting into place for the students is, you know, you have to be confident that that's the optimal learning environment. And so convincing parents is always a challenge. And what you have to understand as a coordinator, as a school leader, I've been a principal for several schools now, is that you have to go in accordance to the standards, the policies, procedures that are being faced right now around the world. And I think, you know, the idea is to hear what the parents are saying, try to visualize what the curriculum, what their expectations are, and try to strategically plan how to incorporate it in an e-learning platform. So even though online is the way that around the world we're doing right now. So you're not able to change that mindset in parents that this is how it has to be right now. But what you can do is decipher the practices or expectations and incorporate it into the planning process.
Agree to that. Another thing that we people generally face in e-education thing that we are going because of COVID-19, the issue is that the parents who are financially not very strong, like if somebody has 2 kids or maybe 3 kids, and the studies take place in the allotted time, so they are not able to provide the appropriate number of gadgets to their children, or maybe the same number of laptops or the phones for their kids. So again, that is a big issue that we people generally face here.
Absolutely. You know, and the thing is, that's where it's educating parents. So educating parents on time management. That's another factor of time management to allot the study periods for their children. If schools are viable to, you know, there are schools that have the opportunities to do the technology sharing. But again, those go through the health and hygiene standards for COVID-19. And so I think it goes back to educating the parents, but allowing them to understand that you understand the situation, so that you're not saying, well, why did your child not study today? You know, and so it goes back to the element of practice. And I think going back to educating parents on that sort of process, that the expectations are guidelines. You know, we have to look at families. Each household is different. And so as a school, we have our general guidelines and practices, but we have to be very understanding for parents that, they can't necessarily equate to that.
Thank you, James.
One last question, Dr. Latha Murthy.
Yes, please tell me.
This is for you. What do you say about the problem of students who don't have the same access to technology and equipment necessary for online education?
Okay, in that case, what's happening is that nowadays in India, we have access to each and every parent remotely. Each and every parent has got a phone which has got a data connection. Even to the interior parts, they have that. 2G, 3G, 4G. They already have that data pack in all the phones. And the students can be connected with their parents' phones remotely.
Exactly right.
So India is becoming a digital India. You understand? You know that already, isn't it?
Exactly, ma'am. This was a question asked by Mr. Rohit on chat.
Yes. So everybody is connected. Not all the schools have taken the digital platform. There are many schools, maybe about 70% of the schools, which have not taken digital platform yet. So, but they are going to. Now it's the holiday period. So after the holidays get over, from the month of June, yes, each and every school will start. Before the school reopens, they will have the digital platform ready.
Exactly. It
Now
was
they
a
are training.
wonderful session
I
today,
thank
ma'am.
Latha Murthy.
Wonderful
I
session,
thank
and
Latha
we
Murthy
are.
for giving
Latha,
A
ma'am,
quick
can I have?
add-on. Sorry, ma'am. Sorry to have interrupted. Sorry, Khizer.
Yeah.
A quick
I have.
input. Sorry. Can I? If that's okay.
Yes.
I have a question for Latha ma'am and James, if it's okay for just a minute.
Yeah, because we are,
I know you're running short of time. It's okay if it's that's fine then.
No, it's okay. You ask us.
No. Go ahead, please.
Go
Yeah.
ahead.
The question is like now we are planning for online exams.
Yes.
And as most of us pointed out, like of course, the net connectivity and power shutdown frequently, all this is taking place, very common, and getting us accessed by the remote students also is a very difficult task. So how do you look into this aspect, and how do you view online exams is going to serve the
Okay.
purpose?
Online exams, yes, it will serve the purpose, and the government will definitely ensure that there's no power cut in that area wherever the online exams are going on.
No, this is not in one particular area. It is country as a whole. Like if it's for CBSEs, UGC have already planned for online exam, and students and faculties are coming out with the issue telling that it is very difficult for them to give online exams. It's maybe usage of the data.
Okay. A simple answer would be nothing is impossible. Everything is possible. So because I stand with online
That is a
examination.
very optimistic answer, Latha ma'am. I appreciate it. Thank you.
I'm going to jump in there for just a minute. I think that with the way that we are going, we have to understand that we have to look at online assessments as we did for online learning when
Yes.
COVID-19 started. And so we had to shift gears overnight very quickly. And so as our government support, as the ministries of educations, there are so many different factors and elements of how things are being transferred, that things are changing on an hourly basis. So what we have to do is make sure that we're understanding of what's happening, but also be ready for that change. And and yeah, absolutely. And I think that the online assessments is going to be a crucial part of how we are going to achieve the benchmarks and that initial success in the coming months.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I hope we answered your question, Ramani. I think Madhu has something to say, and then we'll close. Madhu?
All I had to say is for people who are asking for the remote access, data connectivity not being there, and a few of the issues that was raised. I'm not sure how much most of them are familiar. There is dedicated government channels or television channels that will be playing very soon in most of the basic television like Doordarshan, which is the government channel, which is available without your normal DTH connections as well, where kids will be getting access to educational content from the very ground level to higher up education classes. This is just for information for somebody who had asked about rural area where parents do not have data connectivity and stuff like that. So this is also something that you can get access to or get hands on.
Yeah.
So I would like to interrupt in between. Rightly agree to what you have said that the Doordarshan and other free-to-air channels are airing content-based, curriculum-based, subjective shows related to the students' education. But most of them are like DD Chandana, DD Girnar. All these are regional channels. My
Correct.
son is a grade 10 student, CSC board student. So like I asked, going through a physics session about refraction and reflection, but he told me, Mama, it's entirely in Bengali. How do I understand Bengali? Just the derivations and other things which they write down on the board, that is entirely in English. Anybody can understand that. Explanation was given at differentiation integration thing which he's doing for his class 11, and reflection entirely in Bengali. Now the issue that the government needs to understand is not everybody has, access to those languages. Either it should be in Hindi or it should be entirely in English, or maybe a bilingual thing which everybody understands. We do appreciate for rural India that they are, taken up the initiative of conducting these programs on free-to-air channels, wherein subscriber doesn't have to pay. But the entire benefit is not for the children because they are not able to understand that.
Yeah,
Ma'am,
Simran, we
that's
can
a
understand
different
what we will do is
discussion. We can take it for
Madhu,
different.
Mr.
Yes, ma'am. Sorry.
Yeah, sorry to interrupt.
Go
Mr.
ahead, ma'am.
James has to leave
Yes, ma'am.
the session. So we
I'm
will
sorry,
discuss
I'm
this maybe
sorry.
after this one. Simran, is it okay?
Definitely.
Okay.
Yes,
To
yes.
answer your question, I will send you a reply. Mr. Madhu will reply you. Okay. So I thank each and everyone whoever have joined us today for your valuable time, and I thank Mr. James Martin specially to have been with us, associated with us, and taken.
It's been my pleasure, and I love the today's session. So thank you. And if you would like to connect with me after, I will send my details to Dr. Murthy as well, and you can get the details and
Sure.
connect with me. Okay.
Yeah, I will put your details with all of this.
Wonderful.
Bye-bye.
All
Thank
right.
you all for
Khizer,
participating
you
in
have
today's webinar. We hope to see you again. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Latha Murthy.
Yeah, it was a
for
nice
giving us
session.
the
Thank you,
chance.
sir.
Thank
Bye.
you.